Hello everybody and welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery. We have a very special episode this week because if you are new to the cast, well, you learned the three of us last week and now we have two guests, so it's going to be a busy week. Lots of people here, lots of voices for you to learn who we all are, but it's going to be worth it. We're talking Modern Horizons tonight. I'm Corbin. I'm joined by my co-host Jason and the permanent guest slash maybe host one day, DJ. What's up, guys?
Yep.
Hey.
Yup, he says.
Week number 2 out of 4 of GP travel / general travel for me. I'm not Edwin level.
Yeah.
Who travels 55 weeks out of a year like a nightmare small gremlin, but
yeah, that's pretty insane.
I am on week 2 of 4. And
good luck, my man. We appreciate you coming here with us. We all know if that was me, I would have skipped a week by now. And moving on, we have some really great guests this week. You know them as the Masters of Modern podcast. Ben Batemen, Alex Kessler. Welcome to the show, guys. How's it going?
Hey,
What's going on? We're stoked to be here. We've obviously been fans of you guys. I know you from the scene for a while, so it's fun to be on the show together. This is really, really cool. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I think we're old now. I think we first all hung out at, GP Vegas 1 or something, right?
Long time
yeah,
ago, yeah.
2013.
Shrimp and craps.
Yeah, we did. Run that back this year, please. Anyway, so you guys, we know Masters of Modern podcast. Anyone who wants to find that, check it out. You can do so at collected.company. But you guys have a lot more going on than that. Ben is, I always can find Ben in a crowd because he wears the fanciest of suits and makes me look even more homely than I already do. So, and Alex has a lot of projects going on outside of Magic. Gaming, Kesco, you got a new product out. So yeah, guys, just tell us real quick what's been going on in your lives.
I'll let you take the first crack at this, Alex.
All right, sweet. So obviously follow the podcast. The one thing that wasn't mentioned is we also just kind of started really putting effort into the YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. It's the MMcast there as well. I have a toy company, so we're the largest hula hoop supplier in the world, so we make more hula hoops than anyone.
Heck yeah.
A new product called Drop.
For kids.
Yeah, for kids. That are these like squishy characters. There's a unicorn, there's a narwhal, there's a pineapple with sunglasses. They're at Walmart right now exclusively. So if you go to a Walmart, they're in every single one of them. They're really dope. Definitely check those guys out.
What was that called? What was that called for the parents out there?
Drop Dot Love'ems.
There you go.
Corbin, why are you assuming and isolating our...
Man.
We could have 8-year-olds listening to this cast who are genuinely interested in Squish Toys, and you're not addressing that audience.
I apologize for that segment of our audience.
Well, they need to go get their parents' credit card to go to Kesco.com and order Drop Dots, Ice Hoops, and Drop Dots Love'ems.
How else can the average 10-year-old afford a hula hoop if not for the hustle of Magic Finance? That's what I did. 2 years ago, I was a young 12-year-old boy just hustling cardboard on the street like a Yu-Gi-Oh anime.
That story is so believable. That's the thing.
If I could just give a brief product endorsement, if you were to throw a Drop Dots ball at your daughter a little too hard in the house, once she stops crying, you'll notice it doesn't leave a bruise on her little chest, hypothetically. So the products, they're hard enough to throw, but they're squishy enough that they won't injure your... That didn't happen, but...
You're gonna put that one on. You're gonna put that one on that testimonial on the website, Alex.
Doesn't leave a bruise. That's
an ad campaign if I've ever seen one.
No, but my daughter does love the products that Kes sent us.
Those are the balls are now award winning. We won awards this year, and we were the hoops were on the Ryan and Kelly. We got them Ryan Seacrest hooping with an ice hoop on TV this last weekend, which was surreal.
Huh. What was the name? Forgive me. What was the name of the drinking board game you guys invented?
Super Party Battle. So yeah, you can get that on Amazon right now. That was our first game we ever made.
That game is legit a lot of fun.
And enjoyed that one. My friends
quick,
and I
easy
played that
games.
one.
I really like it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, people want to try it out. We'll be at Gen Con too, so we'll have that. And then also we kickstarted a game last fall called Battle Bosses. I think the backer kit is still up, so if you want to sign up still, I think there's a back end way to get in and get early copies. But that one's really good too. It's like a strategy. It's if like Pop Funkos fought each other. It's like Magic meets collectible action figures. It's really fun.
That's cool. We'll have links to all that stuff in the show notes for people who are interested.
Hey, Ben, movie trivia Schmodown Superstar. Tell us what you do, man.
Well, I've been a movie critic in LA for a number of years, and I do a lot of podcasts and things like that in the movie space as well as with the Magic. But movie trivia Schmodown is basically what WWE. It's like if you took wrestling, but instead of hitting each other, you were doing live movie trivia. So like you and your friends up there on a big stage in front of like hundreds and thousands of people doing live movie trivia. And then now the show has actually evolved and developed to include wrestlers. So last week I was in Houston in a wrestling ring playing against my former teammate, Booker T, 5-time champ, threw me a chair. I hit him over the back with a chair. My heel trainer is X-Pac, formerly of DX. Like there's an actual wrestling element, but it's really mostly storylines and characters and all akin to wrestling, entrance music and all that, but live movie trivia.
Jason,
so you can find that on YouTube.
I don't even know how to do
trivia. Jason's the movie trivia wizard. How is he not involved in this yet?
Because
Back
it turns
in
out you don't just get to
1947,
invite
this
yourself
one movie
on.
had this one animal that was 8 years old, and
I think the best way to describe everything you just said is LA stuff. Wherever you're at, it's LA stuff to me.
I do LA stuff. I wear a suit and do LA stuff.
Well, I'm a giganto nerd and have been since I was a small child, and I love Magic. So as LA as I can dress myself, I'm never going to get away from the fact that I want to cast a Crawworm if I can.
Yeah, and the podcast is great. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at Modern Horizons. We're going to go from the set top to bottom, for the most part anyways, with a small twist. For those of you who were around for the last couple, we are going to go by the best-selling cards. TCG Player publishes this data live. So we can see right now that the Snowlands, no surprise, are the 5 best-selling cards on TCG Player from Modern Horizons.
No surprise there.
Yeah. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to work our way down the list, and we're just going to, have Alex and Ben in here with a lot of their expertise on Modern and just see kind of what we think. And we're going to hit on the financial aspects of the card as well as the playability. So starting at the top, Snowlands.
Well, other stuff, actually, too. We don't have to just talk about the cards, because something like Extra Planar Lens, that really benefits when people
That's true. That's right.
fully snowing out their deck. Extra Planar Lens was never eligible to be in the set, but now like everyone's like, oh, it's not in the set, because of course it can't be. It was already legal in Modern. Something like that, how do you reprint a card like that? So that could go to like $50 just on the basis of like, well, it's really good and people now have sexy full art snow-covered lands to play with.
Which are sweet.
Yeah, that's an EDH thing more than Modern, but like there's a lot of EDH cards in this set.
Hey man, there's a lot of spread red players out there who are now very happy. And by a lot, I mean like all 7 of them.
Yep.
Well, now they got full art foils. That's pretty hot.
Yeah, the mono black snow people. They got the best board wipe in the.
I play alpha lands in Gonzi, and that Toxic Deluge-esque thing was the first card in a while that made me go like, nope,
cool.
Probably not worth it.
That card's cool though. All right, so moving on.
You guys are talking about Dead of Winter.
Yeah.
So the Snowlands, by the way, they range in price from 50 cents, 60 cents for the plains, $1.20 for the island. I mean, what do you guys think's happening 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now with these?
They'll be this price-ish or cheaper.
Really? You don't see them climbing to say 2 or 3? And let's say a year. Let's say a year to 2 years. That's the time frame.
Do you want to roll back the clock and have this? We had this discussion with Unstable Lands, Corbin.
Yeah, well, I agree.
And I think that people overestimate the value of full art lands going up in the long term, just because basic lands are something Wizards does to death. And I think that they are more of a fad or a flavor of the month than anything else, as we saw with like the Ravnica Guild Weekend lands, where we had those really cool foily promos with the weird frames, and those were like $1 billion, and then everyone freaked out, and now they're very cheap. And then it just happens every single time they put a new basic land out there, and then 3 months from now there'll be some other wacky, crazy core set 2020 land and basic.
With snow though,
humans.
I mean this isn't full art regular basics.
There's a mechanical difference. Like Yes, most of the time.
But there's no
there's a reason you have to play these cards over other mountains versus
they didn't print
other
a
full
snow
arts.
commander or anything. There's no new incentive to go strongly into snow in constructed or.
Well, I'll say that there's maybe not you're right that there's no huge thing pushing snow in this set, but the lands do exist. There are a couple cards, and I do know in my store there are a couple people who I know have already asked us to set aside lands for them because they're either updating their snow lands or they're building a deck with snow lands, right? I mean,
But
I
didn't you have the
your
same
point.
people asking for unstable lands?
Not really, to be honest, right? But they're right. You have to play. You have to play these. You can't play this full art versus this full art. This is all you got.
You have three choices. You have the old ones. You have the ones from Cold Snap, and this. And if you want to play Scred, you have to play these. You don't have a choice. If you want to play mono black Scred, if that's a thing, or not Scred, but mono black snow. Or if you want to play mono white snow, if you want to play the new snow enchantment, or even blue with Merit Leech. There's cards and incentives, and then add the layer of extra planar lens is now much better with any of these. I have friends who just roll around with one snow island because they didn't want to pay for this 40 islands they need, but they would be pretending that this snow island was a token representing all of their islands or snow. So this is a real incentive to be able to play with those cards. Yeah, I know.
I'm really glad that we did this by best selling so we wouldn't spend 20 minutes talking about a Planeswalker.
Hey, this is 5 cards, my man.
Yeah, that's true. We get 5 times as much time. I think it's interesting that the Snow-Covered Mountain is the 5th best-selling, but the 2nd most expensive.
Yeah, right. That is really interesting.
Corbin, would you like to make?
I think long-term guys, you can expect if they go up at all and it becomes a thing, and let's just say that we're missing something, and there is enough support for there to be a real snow deck in Modern. Which, aside from the Scred decks, I just think that given the opportunity, Wizards will just print more of them, and we're forgetting about the fact that there was so much Ice Age opened, and it's such a bad set that anybody who has an old Magic collection, I probably have
yeah, no one wants those, right?
But
they're just trash, man. Now that you don't have to play the ugly ones, I feel like the new players are getting the new ones, and the old players are getting the new ones because no one wants to play those Ice Age ones.
I sell those Ice Age ones.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong then. They're ugly.
I mean, not faster than I sell the Cold Snap ones, though.
Well, yeah.
I think also, there's the point that there was no Snow Commander in this set, and people have pointed out that of the mechanics, even though they said a lot of what they were trying to do here was to pick stuff that they won't be returning to, Snow is one that they very easily could just, this fall, we could be doing a Viking set, and Snow is a major mechanic, and this was a bleed-in lead-in to that, so people already had them in their collection. Or
I agree, and I definitely thought about that.
And if that happens, then we get more Snowlands, and they're still worthless.
That's my point. Is that if that happens, they're worthless. But if that doesn't happen, then we have a long
don't buy them. Don't hoard them like a dragon, expecting them to go up over 30% over 2 years, just because they're Snowlands. They're not.
Yeah, ask anybody who was buying BFZ Fat Packs.
All right, there you go. I'm with you guys. I think that I think it's probably I'll sell them all at $1 for a long time. Eventually, I'll sell them at $2, right? But
no,
if you're a player, don't
for the next 2 years.
Don't either way. Don't hoard them. All right, next up. Yeah, go ahead.
More valuable in foil than the unstable lands are.
For the reasons.
Anybody who's going to foil them is going to get the best available foil, and that's these.
You think these are going to be more valuable than unstable foils?
More desirable. I don't know about more valuable.
Yeah, it's hard to say because the print run
$20 to $60, and these are pre-selling for less than half that.
Yeah, look, the print runs, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of weird stuff
yeah, I guess the print run does come into play. Yeah,
there's a lot of weird stuff that impacts the price. But your point about if you want the foils, this is it, right? These are the only pretty full art foils you can get. Unlike the unstable lands are in a different class, and that's
all right.
Moving on.
That's a lot of time.
Moving on. Beast Within got reprinted, and it's a white card, and it's called Generous Gift, and it's $1. We talked a little before the cast. I think it goes up,
but I'm not buying in for cash.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little before the cast about this. Does white need Beast Within the way green needs Beast Within?
I don't think so.
Probably not in Modern.
No. I don't think this card's good.
All right. It's certainly not good in Modern. I mean, it's a card in EDH, but there's a lot of cards like it. So I agree. It's
how much does the politics of this card really help make this card better than cards that don't give them a 3/3 token?
Right. Yeah. It's just not. Yeah. It's a card, and people will play it, and I might play some, but again, it's a breaking bulk, but it's not like going to be super crazy shooting up, in my opinion. Either.
Part of it, Beast Within, one of the things that's so important about it is that it's in the color green that can't do the things that Beast Within can do normally.
Right.
Yeah, because Beast Within was the color pie break. This isn't the break. It's not like they reprinted. It's not like Concentrate and then Harmonize was the actual break in the color pie, because Harmonize is the good one. It's like Generous Gift is what white normally does, and then Beast Within is what green shouldn't do.
Yep. All right.
That's why it's good.
Yeah.
Goblin Engineer.
Yeah, Goblin Engineer. This is an interesting one to be pre-selling like this. It's pre-selling at $5. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for an artifact, put it in your graveyard. It's a 2-drop 1/2. Red mana, tap it, sack an artifact, return an artifact with red mana, costs 3 or less from graveyard to the battlefield. To me, this feels like a lot of work for no payoff in Modern.
I mean, right now, I think
Correct.
this is one of the best cards to buy if it becomes very cheap, because then it goes into my giant pile of is not good right now, but could easily be with one single card printed.
Well, what's very cheap, DJ? What do you think people should be looking at?
Like $1.50.
Okay.
Yeah, this is an EDH card for sure, but it's not you're not gonna be glad you bought it at $5.
It's Entomb. It's not
guys,
Goblin Welder.
I mean, from a price perspective, I'm not going to talk towards as much, but from a playability perspective and from an excitement perspective, other than Batterskull, and obviously the fact that if they kill it, it goes away, this does a pretty decent Stoneforge Mystic imitation. Like, it gets any of the good swords and puts it into play. That's where you can tap with it.
Is that good?
Sacrifice an artifact.
You do have to sacrifice an artifact. That's fair.
You have to have an artifact. Look, you have to have an artifact and have a creature to put it on. Like, you can't do anything with your sword until turn 4. Aren't you just dead?
I think you guys are missing one really, really key piece of this, which is that Modern is a format where if you have the right Silver Bullet artifact, you can nerf a lot of decks. So there's a lot of these 1 or 2 CMC artifacts that are really good. So on turn 2, if you play this in place of a Stoneforge Mystic in a deck, you can take advantage of the fact that you have a Grafdigger's Cage, or you have any of these artifacts that shut people down that prison decks like to play. If they don't kill it, and you're playing a deck that maybe just has a bauble on the table, or whatever, now all of a sudden you have the ability to get the thing you want. Let's say they do kill it. Your deck probably is playing Academy Ruins as a one-of. You could just as easily draw Academy Ruins and then get the card you want later from your graveyard. I think from a price perspective, I'm not sure. From the perspective of this card does something unique and it interacts with powerful cards that you already want to be playing.
Does that beat out the War Prison tutor ability though?
Well, no, here's the answer. It's a sideboard card in that deck. Once they board out their removal and in their artifact removal, you board in this card, which tutors and provides redundancy when they don't have lightning bolts anymore.
Well, I guess the other side is this is Entomb. There are no Entomb effects in Modern, or there's no under 3 mana. So the fact that this gets any, you can use this and Trash for Treasure or any of the medium-sized 4-drop to 5-drop reanimator spells, which are generally slow, but to put in a Inkwell Leviathan or any other big, dirtily unstoppable artifact creature.
But those don't exist right now. That's the problem. Inkwell Leviathan is laughable, right?
Mer Battlesphere, I think, is the better of those two.
That's better, yeah. Yeah, it's just hard. I think DJ's right that it's definitely able to it's one of those cards that something will eventually break.
Yeah, I want to have 30 of these in a box that I bought for $1 when they preview some Emrakul level artifact creature in 2 years from now.
Right. Yeah, you're right though. I mean, it is a sweet card for sure. It's an exciting card. It feels like a value. It's not the whatever card it's supposed to be imitating, the old one.
We need a live buzzer that goes off every 3 minutes to force us to not talk about a card.
All right, next up, we hit the first talisman.
We hit our talismans, baby.
Our preview cards, but those exist. I mean, they're 25 cents. They're always going to be order. They're always going to be breaking bulks, but probably not going to get very expensive.
Yeah, you hoard these. And then you buy them for 50 cents 2 years from now.
They are draft.
And you just also keep them because then you build commander decks and you're like, God, I wish I didn't have to spend 76 cents plus 78 cents shipping on TCG Player for my single talisman. And then you realize that you kept one out of your bulk draft chef.
It's true. You could actually just like randomly save yourself $5 on different commander decks. All right, next card though. This is an interesting one. This is a big modern card, so interested to hear what you guys think. Scale up. 1 green mana until end of turn.
Oh, you skipped Ice Fang, dog.
Corbin, you're wrong.
Yeah, you skipped Ice Fang. What did you do, man?
Interesting, because on my screen, I didn't.
Oh, cool. Well, okay. Then you don't get to drive the bus anymore.
So the scale up is legit. I wonder if it like changed if one of them passed the other when we loaded the pages at different times.
It could be. The cards are fairly even. Ice Fang Quaddle is the 1/1 flash flying for green and blue. And when it enters battlefield, draw a card. But it's not quite Strix because you have to have 3 other snow permanents in order to give it Death Touch. Do we want this in Modern?
No.
What do you want it in Modern? There's no like Shardless Agent cascading into this big value time. There's no...
and the format doesn't even work like that. Like it's just a different format than Legacy. It's not like Baleful Strix wouldn't be good in Modern, but... Legacy is just different because everyone just destroys their hand by turn 3 against each other, and then Strix is this built-in 2-for-1 that also pressures Jace. Like, it's just a completely different format than what that would look like in Modern.
Yeah, Baleful Strix would be good in Modern because it's an artifact, not for other reasons.
Yeah, and this takes a lot of work. 3 other snow permanents.
Yeah, Baleful Strix go Karn. You know, like...
yeah, I mean, like the one deck you'd want this against maybe is Blue-White Control, and I don't think this is good against it.
Yeah, I don't know why it's selling so well because I'm not really excited about it as an EDH.
I mean, either, so. I think one of the biggest reasons that this is selling well is because the card is cheap, and that's just one of the things that sorting by best selling will do to our list. Is it skews the cheaper cards towards the top because it's very easy for players who are hypothetically building this to just bank $6 on a playset and go, if it doesn't work, I lost $6, and then they're brewing these wacky Simic or Teamery snow decks or whatever, or they're maybe it's even like a casual for their casual snow deck that they've been wanting to build for 15 years, but that sort of thinking skews these cards towards the top.
Yeah, so it's low risk to pick it up.
I actually have a slightly different opinion on this card. I think so. They don't want to print Baleful Strix or this card into Standard, right? They don't want to print Baleful Strix into Modern because they would have if they were going to. Which means this is the peak of what they're willing to push for this cost right now at this rate, right? This is the best imitation they're going to give us.
Right.
So I think that people are going to undervalue this. It's going to get opened to shitload. People are going to open it in drafts. It's going to get opened a ton. And at the end of the day, when the set's being opened, it's going to be like 66 cents. And I think if you hold on to these in about 2 years, they're not going to print something better. This is going to be like $4 or $5 because people are going to like this card as a casual card.
Yeah, it's a cool card. It's a very cool card.
That is an assumption. That is a assessment I'm willing to get behind.
Yeah, it's also good. It is good in Commander. We don't have the blue-green Commander we talked about, but I also I think Alex mentioned it earlier, but I also had the thought looking at a lot of these cards. It really looks like these snow cards are like hinting at a Viking playing in the future, right? Whatever.
Maybe
right?
in like the next year, even.
You know, like it's a
I think it could be the September set. Like
like it's a big trope. Yeah, it's a big trope. They've actually like kind of talked around it in like Rosewater articles or whatever for like feels like years at this point. Like, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. It would be odd if they did this as a complete one-off in this set with
I agree.
Cards limited to 2 colors or whatever it is, right? So I agree with that assessment too. I like this card when it gets cheap.
You know what else I like?
At least, yep.
I'm trying to move us on.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Scale up. Corbin tried to talk about that earlier. Makes a dude into a Crowworm, and that creature retains infect if it had it. For 1 mana.
Pretty good. By the way, it also has Overload of 6.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Yeah. Not in Modern, it doesn't.
Yeah. Tell us about the card in Modern, guys.
I mean, it's a infect staple. You're already playing a delve spell that does half of this. or almost all of this with that takes effort, and this does it without that effort.
Is this putting infect back on the map?
I think infect's been back on the map for the last, like, it's kind of been under the radar, but it hasn't really left in the way people assumed it did. Like, if you look at performance rates, it's always kind of doing well. There's a few GPs that even top 8'd. So, like, this card just seems like an easy slot to that, and it's just an addition to the deck and will become a staple. I don't know if they play 4 of them. That's, like, the real question is, do they want 4? This Probably. Is a sorcery. That's its biggest negative. So you have to do it, like, ahead of time. But other than that, it's just...
I mean, the deck was kind of leaning to... I mean, since they removed Get Probe, I think you're right. The deck kind of, like, fell off in popularity more than it did in win rate.
Right.
And I felt the same way. I occasionally see it top 8 or something, but I just have, like, a giant box of infect staples from commons I've pulled from collections. I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting on. I'll see it top 8 something, and then nope, no one cares. This might do something.
I think this is one of the best examples that shows that they tested the set. And by that I mean they had a lot of designers and developers work on this set and just grind modern games into dust to make sure that nothing got absurdly broken or that nothing just easily warped the format. And
they threw one person under the bus, right? Michael Majors?
Yes. They said this guy was in charge of all of it. If it loses... If something breaks, burn him at the stake. Yeah,
I felt so bad. I know that like they were doing that in a positive way to compliment his contributions, but oh my gosh, he got thrown.
Protect your tweets, Michael. Protect your tweets.
He is dangling.
Yeah, if something goes wrong. This would be one of the foremost cards that is very easy to slot into an existing deck, a existing fast deck that has a very strong early clock that people don't like to play against. And just grind that deck into the dust to make sure that it doesn't warp the format. So
I agree.
Them putting this card into the set, I think, is proof of the fact that it is safe in some way or another.
I think you're right about that. I think it will be good in infect, obviously. But I think you're right. Like, it's not like... Well, I have to be careful because I said this about Felidar Guardian and Alien. I was... It's not like they didn't look at the card and also go, this would be good in infect, and then think through the implications of that.
It's not like they missed the combo, we missed the combo.
Yeah, that was rough for me. I won't name the pro, but I actually had like a long, not an argument, but like a private discussion with a professional player who was like, you're wrong, they didn't know this is terrible, they would never do this. And I was like, no, it's fine, of course they know.
They're not the biggest idiots in the world.
I know it seems bad, but look, it's going to be fine. And then they put out the thing saying they just missed it, and I just sent that person back a reply a couple days later, and I was just like, you were right, wizards are stupid.
I think, guys, with this card, something to think about really quickly is that if you're just comparing the rate, versus how good will this card be versus how good it won't be, generally speaking in the infect deck, if they get down the 1/1 for 1, or if they play the Ink Moth or the Hierarch or whatever, you're taking 1 to 2 infect in the first 1 to 2 turns before they go all in on a big turn.
Right.
The fact that it's probably a 1/1 turning into a 6/4 means that it's effectively +5/+5 as opposed to most of your spells, which are +4/+4. Your good spells, your Might of Old Krosa and your Vines of Vastwood, your groundswells. So the extra point, if you kind of do the math on the expectation of where you're going to be, means they really only have to connect one time, really one time early in the game to push this over the edge. So in terms of rate, this card ends up being worth more than the cards you're already playing, which leads me to believe that unless we're missing something as a pickup long term, as long as this is reasonably cheap, I think this is really, really good.
It's a great breaking. It's going to be a great breaking bulk.
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say is that the deck is just going to go for it all the time with these cards, right?
It's that one step beyond what we already had.
I agree. It's a really big deal. It makes the turn 3 kills way more likely.
The only time I see this stop seeing play is if for some reason a 4X first striker starts seeing play that invalidates half of the card, but that's not the world we live in currently, so I think we're fine.
All right.
Force of
Next
Despair.
up.
Is that what your list says, Corbin? Force of Despair?
It is.
Some good old Seb
the only one that was off was the scale up in the S-Fang. So Force of Despair, this is part of the new cycle. This one's interesting, really interesting. It's a 3-mana instant. If it's not your turn, you exile black card instead of paying its mana cost. Destroy all creatures that enter the battlefield this turn.
That means they're going to unban Splinter Twin.
Oh my gosh. Hot take, Jason.
Just kidding. Empty your carts. Empty your carts.
It's insane how much of a Flashpoint Splinter Twin still is. And you know it because, like, when a meme gets posted about Splinter Twin or whatever,
yeah, it
and
starts
you look at
the whole
comments,
goddamn discussion over again.
It's still going on. Like, people are still fighting about
Splinter
it.
Twin is the new reserve list at this point. You can just
It's
make one
insane.
stupid joke about it and waste my entire day on Twitter for it.
I love it. If anyone's interested, I wrote a really in-depth article for MTG Price back in the day called Splinter Twin, the ban, the reaction, and the fallout or something. And it was like just high. What I did is because I recognized the moment that we were living, and I basically chronicled everything from the ban to the outcry to the Wizards' response to the Twitter discussions with WotC. I put it all out there because I knew how special it would be. So it's a nice little walk back through time if you're interested in seeing some of the reactions of the moment from prominent people. Anyways, what about this card? What about this card in Modern?
I think it's underrated. Like, the one thing I'll say is that conversations with there's a lot of this like hate generally towards this set with parts of the Magic community, and I bring this card as a card that's just like a staple, and they're like, no, it's not. This is not going to see play in anything.
This card's cool,
and it like does a lot. It's an answer to a lot of strategies, like being able to just like stop a Phoenix turns player turn, or just get rid of any threat that they're playing. Like, yeah, it's pretty efficient at what it's doing, and it's fine on your turn. Like, I think this
it's completely reasonable to pay 3 mana for this card too. Sometimes, like,
is this a sideboard card or a main deck card? Because it's a sideboard card.
Sideboard. It's probably a sideboard. That's the thing about a lot. I don't think you
pay 4 for it then.
A lot of cards in this set are sideboard cards. To me, what do you guys think?
I think I would not be surprised to see up to 2 of these cards in a main deck.
But would you play this in like the rack or something like that? Where you just want to slow down the game and empty your
that deck
hand?
wants actual damnation. This goes in more like a Grixis deck where you're fine just paying 3 mana as a Doomblade.
That's where that's the funny part about this card
with Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, exactly.
The funny part about this card, guys, is that like I can't think of that many situations I would want to pay a black card for this card, but I think it's fine to just cast it. So I actually just think the force side of it is like sort of deceiving, and I think if they had just printed this without the force side, we'd probably still be talking about it.
Yeah.
So
and you're right. The fact that and the fact that the force side exists, like it doesn't seem relevant until like some DJ's right. You just have something access to in your deck that is already sort of reasonable.
In case of emergency, exile black card.
Right, exactly, and you don't die to the Vengevines on turn 1 or 2 or whatever, right? Like this is the kind of card that it's really close with these because they have to make them good enough to just put a little bit of pressure on those unfair decks, not to make them unplayable, but to just put enough pressure on the format so that there aren't enough of them that are so good. And I think that this card might find that balance. I think Force of Negation, which I'm sure we'll get to, I think that also finds a pretty good balance. All right, so let's move on here. Next rare up is Spiteful Sliver. So it's $2. Most of the slivers are, $1 or $2, I think. What do you guys think about slivers in the set?
They are perennial price plateaus. I didn't think I'd be able to make an alliteration out of that, but I did.
Okay.
They are constant sources of value. I will be very, very happy buying these at 50 cents to $1 at every GP for the next 14 years, and then selling them at slightly higher than that at this price point.
What about Modern? What about Modern, guys?
I don't know.
So there's this debated before. I mean, it historically has been weaker than humans and or spirits. Like those two decks have been better. Or then you go into the other Coco decks of all the like combo collected company decks.
You've named all the tier 2 tribal decks, which is good. Continue.
Corbin wants you to say that this is worse than Merfolk, and you can't in good conscience do that.
Slivers might be worse than Merfolk and have definitely won less GPs than Merfolk.
I'll take it. I will take it.
They have just gotten a lot of additional tools that Merfolk did not get any of.
Yeah.
So this could have put them above Merfolk.
At least Merfolk got all the same tools and changed.
Merfolk got Unsettled Mariner. How dare you?
Merfolk got the lands, but here's I've already got a response to that. Okay, I've thought this one through. This set's clearly going to be very popular. We're obviously going to have Modern Horizons 2. However, with this first one, they had to play it kind of close to the vest, right? They took some risks. There's definitely some new cards, but overall, they kind of had to just take it easy to not blow up the format. Come Modern Horizons 2, they're going to have done this a time before. They're going to know what's up. They are going to go no holds barred. They're just going to go for it. And at that point, they're going to look back and they're going to say, what did people really like about the first Modern Horizons? They really like the tribes. Well, what tribes haven't we done? And then we're going to get the push Merfolk cards.
Corbin,
so it's pain now for gain later.
Corbin, Modern Masters 15 argues against you.
The one disagreement I have I have two things on what you said. One is against Merfolk, is that Merfolk is a tribe they like printing, like elves. Like, people are complaining that Merfolk and elves didn't get cards here, but they're tribes that they support regularly in
Merfolk
Standard.
does not get as much.
They got more fun.
They got all of
Merfolk is
Ixalan.
nowhere near the level. And it was a joke. Literally, R&D members have apologized to me for Ixalan.
Well, okay, so moving past that, the other thing I want to say is what's interesting about...
I'm kidding. They've apologized that I did not like the Merfolk cards.
Jade Light Ranger is not a Merfolk, but it's good. It doesn't play like a Merfolk.
But what you were saying about them being safer on this set, I do think that it's interesting that with this set, they played it safer, where historically with these... like Conspiracy, they didn't play it safe because they kind of walked into it expecting it not to succeed. And then, so they wasted all of their good ideas on the first one so that when they came back to it, Conspiracy 2 was underpowered. Kind of Modern Masters 1 versus Modern Masters 2 is also a good example.
That's an interesting opinion.
That is an interesting take, because I thought Conspiracy 2 was better.
Yes.
From a from a place perspective, I mean, the conspiracies, at least in the draft matters.
I thought the central mechanic, the Monarch mechanic of Conspiracy 2 was so much better than anything for the actual gameplay of Conspiracy 1.
Leovold is a card, man.
Sure. I'm more referring to the draft matters card, because that's what conspiracy, Monarch is cool, but that's a multiplayer mechanic. Draft matters cards.
I'm with
the
you.
Conspiracies themselves were way better in the first one than the second one. Those are
that
just irrelevant to
yes.
every version of gameplay beyond that, other than that format.
You're right.
And Cube. But for this set, I would almost imagine that because that is the complaint, right? That the power level is too weak here. I can imagine the second one then boosting power level in general.
Right. And that's where we want our Merfolk.
I can also just imagine anyone complaining about this set to just go F themselves.
Nice PG-13. Nice PG-13.
We get one F-bomb and I'm letting Jason have it.
we can say fuck one time per episode. And
I agree. It was really nice of you to not say fuck. That way Jason can say it.
Whoa, Corbin, I already said fuck and then you said fuck.
Anyways, next card up.
I said fuck earlier.
Wait, guys, 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 seconds before we move on, just because something you said earlier made me laugh. We started this conversation talking about Slivers, and you said, Merfolk got the blue-white chains. Well, so did Slivers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing is about that, the entirety of Tribal in Modern hinges on what is this deck doing different than the other Tribal version, and you have to either be disruptive, more aggressive, right, or be able to go wider. And so
Humans does all of it the best because it's broken as hell.
Unfortunately, Slivers has 8 muscle slivers. There's a lot of really cool things that Slivers gets to do. It's just it doesn't really do any of those things better than the other versions, which is why Slivers has always been held back as that.
Well,
about tier 1.
I'm gonna throw Frenetic Sliver out at you, and Homing Sliver. Slivers have the flexibility that the other decks do not. Now, is that better than what those decks do? No.
Well, but you have access to now, there's the Unearthed ones, so now they are hard to kill. There's enough Slivers out there that eventually maybe something exists, and as long as it's under 3
it's going to be fun to try.
Company. Yeah,
it's going to be fun.
That's fair. We can move on.
Yeah, all right. Next up is Plague Engineer, talking about all those tribal decks. This card's cool, and I think this card's legitimately going to be a player in Modern. It's a 2/2 for 3 mana, black card, Death Touch. As in battlefield, choose a creature type of the chosen type that your opponents control, get -1/-1.
You sound like you're like a Miss America contestant right now.
I did stumble through that one pretty badly.
Such as in the Iraq.
Oh, that was a quality throwback reference there, Jason. That's old, man. You dated yourself with that one.
I'd like to date her. I'm just kidding. She's dumb.
You're married with 2 children.
That's not the issue Jason has with that.
Yeah, my bad.
I got a dad bod. Dumb girls like a dad bod.
What about Plague Engineer? Because I think this card's great.
Can we make a formal petition to Mark Rosewater to add Phyrexian as a creature type?
Sure.
Instead of Carrier or Horror or Nightmare or whatever.
Carrier.
I agree, but this is not the set to do that in.
Yeah. So what's the deal
but
with
retroactively
this card
will
modern?
be with all the shapeshifters?
What about the card in
I
modern?
love this card. I mean, I've played a ton of Engineered Plague and Legacy, and this card. I mean, we talked about a bunch of tribal decks just now that all, if you just name human or elf or goblin or merfolk or sliver, this card is a fine sideboard card against those. And a lot of those decks, like, I don't know how elves beats this card.
I want to
Obviously,
Coco
elves
into
isn't-
2 of these
isn't-
and ruin someone's
Elves
day.
actually. So here's the thing. I actually gave this a little bit of thought, and I think you could make the argument that this card is actually better against humans than some other tribal decks. Because most tribal decks, their lords give their creatures +1/+1, but because of the way Thalia's Lieutenant works, it doesn't necessarily work the same. Like the plague, because they usually hold it, right? So the Plague Engineer can be pretty good there. You're right about elves though. On turn 3, it's a beating. Once they have they get 1 lord down and they're fine, but
As long as you get before the Lord, they're
I want
like
to
sitting there
Coco
with
into
nothing
2
to
of these
do.
and ruin someone's day.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I don't think there's a deck
Ooh.
out there that can.
I like
can
that.
Power through 2 of these.
The power level of this card also is like Modern's biggest limitation is that its sideboard is 15 cards, right? Like there's so many different directions you have to go after that, and only having 15 cards available to be able to be specific against different matchups makes that difficult. And the fact that this card lets you shore up 5 different matchups that like off of 1 card in your sideboard makes it so much more valuable than say a card that would maybe be better against humans specifically. So I as a sideboard card, I love this card. I think that it'll see. And like worst case scenario, there are decks that you can name
Blink Moth Nexus or something like that.
That's true. Yeah.
Shocked, I think is what Blinkbot.
Yeah.
No, Blink Moth is a Blink
so like
Moth creature. It's like an actual.
Yeah, I believe
type.
so. But yeah. So the other cool. Go ahead.
no, yeah, you go.
Well, I was to say the other cool thing here is that it continues the trend that has been going on for however long of turning old spells into new creatures. Except in this case, it's actually an upgrade because you want the creature because it will hopefully wipe something off but it will then also trade with their best creature. It's just kind of neat that for once the trend of doing that actually made the card better.
It's a little
Well,
easier
in
to
Modern,
kill,
being
though.
a creature is so much better than an enchantment from a silver bullet perspective. Like now,
Coco
is called, and the new finale, and like there's so many ways to tutor creatures in Modern into play, not to mention into your hand. That like being a creature is so much better than an enchantment. There's a few cards in this set in general that just like having it as a creature is an upgrade.
Yeah. All right. Next up, this is a weird one. Land of War Tribe. It's just an uncommon with makes a bunch of mana, so there's a breaking bulk for the future.
Yeah, probably. It's 3 Land of War Elves.
Yeah. Unsettled Mentor's next. This card's pre-selling for $550.
Nah,
this is a changeling we brought up. Yeah, it's a 2/2 for blue-white. It's a changeling. Whenever permanent you control becomes a target of a spell or ability, counter that spell or ability unless they pay 1. So yeah, it's a lord for all the decks. This card I'm actually annoyed about because of how good this card is in humans.
Yeah, it's really good in humans. The other, like, which is just like the first place to put it,
This
is in
is just
spirits
absurd.
as well. Like it's like right in the spirits without a problem.
Yeah,
It's in the
yeah.
colors that spirits wants to be in.
I like it in spirits, but broken in humans.
The cool thing about it is all of those like Dragons Matters cards from Dragons of Tarkir, like the counter spell or like the Wall of Omens that flies. Like there's a bunch of like weird cards that care about tribal.
Yeah.
This is the best changeling ever printed.
Yeah.
Or at least
Sure, yeah.
Like,
Why not?
so
Yeah,
like
whatever.
there's a lot of those tribal cards that now get to
Rare
benefit
entity.
off of having the tribe available with this card, where previously there was no playable changeling. So like that just in itself is something that I don't know which of those are good, but that's not something to be ignored.
You know what? You actually, I mean, it would be weird because it'd be 4 colors, right? But the idea of trying to build Dragon Tribal, because they also have printed, there's the changelings, but if you can fill the gap a little bit to get to the expensive dragons, and there's also new Sarkin, which makes dragons and benefits you for having dragons.
Well, there's a bunch
play.
of 4-mana dragons that are okay.
Yeah, the problem was always what you did on turn 2 and 3, but it actually sounds kind of fun now, but it'd be 4 colors, be hard. All right, moving on. Yeah, go ahead.
One joke meme deck. There's now Wall of Omens and Wall of Blossoms, and so I posted the 8 wall versus 8 rack and 8 whack. But then someone brought up that Ojutai. There's the flying Ojutai wall.
There is.
And with Arcadis and this, you can use that to draw cards off of, and then all of your 0/4 walls attack.
Jeez, that's deep.
Wow. I have thought about Arcades and the critical mass of walls in Modern, because they just printed another round of cards that, let you attack with toughness or whatever. Nice. Okay, next up, the sideboard card that does it all, Kaya's Guile. It's a $3. It does it all, but is what it does good enough. So it's a black, white, and a generic. Choose 2. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. Exile all cards from each opponent's graveyard. Create a spirit. You gain 4 life. And for 3 mana, you can entwine and get all 4 modes. Is this playable in Modern?
If you're playing any Abzan deck, and you would be considering Maelstrom Pulse, I think this is a better card than Maelstrom Pulse most of the time.
Interesting.
Stop. Maelstrom Pulse is already dead.
That's a hot
They
take.
reprinted it
I mean,
80
the
times.
only, I guess, the question is, do you want to be able to kill Teferi, or do you want to exile their graveyard? And those are the combination between those two cards.
There's a lot of things you can kill with. There's a lot of non-creature things you can kill with Maelstrom Pulse, right?
Sure, but
that's just
there's a lot
an
of things in
interesting
people's
one to
graveyard
replace.
that I want to murder.
That's true. Especially
at instant speed.
Wow, that's a hot take.
I actually was thinking about this card more in black-white deck specifically than Abzan. I do kind of like it in the black-white decks a little more because it does what those decks do a little more, right? Your smallpox, this is pretty sweet in smallpox deck where making them sacrifice stuff and making a spirit or whatever is pretty good and it has flexibility.
It's main deckable in Modern. I mean,
Okay.
that's a thing. I think
I
it's
like
really,
that. Okay.
Exiling a graveyard is a thing that you want to do in Modern in half the games you play. And so I think just right there, that's already decent. So if you're telling me that on, aggressive decks, burn decks, and then on top of that, if you get into any kind of a resource trade situation, like in the Abzan matchup you're talking about, and you top deck this late game, and you pay 6, that's a lot of value. That's strong. I think this card, it's not as good as Kolaghan's Command, right? The Kolaghan's Command is a better card. However, Kolaghan's Command is $20, and
right.
slowly but surely crept up from 8 to 10 to 12 to 14 to 16. Now it's a format staple, and this won't be a format staple, so I don't think it's 20. But if you're buying this card for, what is it listed at right now?
$3 right now.
It's not unrealistic to think that, again, after the plunge and rebound, this card is $8 or $9 because everyone casual to Modern wants to just play a copy of it. Seems totally reasonable. This card does a lot. There's just how many cards can you think of that have as many sweet options and don't cost you triple colors?
Yeah. I mean, it does. That was really my question: is if it does a lot of things you want to do, but is it enough to actually invest the card in? I like to hear you say that it is. So I know this next card is worth it, and I'm honestly kind of concerned about this card in Modern. Unearth. It's not worth anything. It's a dime. It's a common, but man, this seems busted in Death Shadow.
Claim to Fame is better, maybe better.
I don't
than
know.
Death Shadow. I guess cycling is better than getting it out of the graveyard.
The whole deck is built to be as efficient as possible. It's a Xerox deck in Modern, or how if you subscribe to that terminology. It just, all its cards are just meant to cycle, basically, and that's what it already did. So giving it a card that not only brings back its Snapcasters and its Death Shadows, but also has cycling, I'm actually legitimately concerned. I hate
Corbin's concerned about every deck in the format. It's not perfect.
Well, I guess that's the thing.
Humans is good. Oh god, Dredge is
I'm
good.
concerned because I have to come
Death
up with
Shadow.
a name for it. Oh, Obs on midrange. Oh, nailed it.
No, I guess what I'm saying is then you're right. I use the word concern, but I mean I think that they are really actually increase. I've heard people complain about the set not doing enough, but I see big upgrades to decks that scare me. Those are decks that are very good.
I love Unearth. I don't know if it's gonna put Death Shadow above and beyond into like an unstoppable position.
I will tell you guys a funny quick story. A few years back, like 2011, I was playing Legacy, and I came up with this really silly deck. It was blue and black, and it was playing Unearth and Snapcasters and Baleful Strix. And I called the deck Strixes and Swayze because Swayze's the best ever.
Baleful Strix came out in like 2013.
Baleful Strix? No, this was a long time ago. Strix came out well before 2015. It had
Baleful Strix
2013. I said.
Yeah.
Maybe this was 2013 then?
2012. 2012.
Yeah.
Man.
So yeah, that was a long time ago. And I was playing Legacy with it, and I remember it was like Delver and like Unearth and Baleful Strix, and I loved it. And I always wanted to be able to do something like that in Modern. Well, the printing of Unearth and this new Fang Codal
has
effectively made it so that I can just port the deck over if I want to.
That sounds kind of fun.
It's really fun. Like, playing an Unearth to Snapcaster and flashback your Unearth to get back another thing is like a lot of value. It's a lot of like dinking and dunking, but it's still really fun.
Yeah, you can even get back the Codal, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And it draws you another card. Like this
sounds kind of sweet. Sultai Snow. I'm in. Sultai Snow control.
So it was definitely really fun, and you're playing enough spells that you can get away with playing Delver. It kind of functions as a tempo deck. It was like really slow and dirtily, and it didn't really like close the game out very fast, but it definitely got me excited. So that's my thought.
Yeah. All right, next up, this one we know is big. Force of Vigor. This card's huge. What's it going to do to Modern?
It's a very powerful sideboard card.
Well, to me, like fundamental, like I guess maybe I think that this is just so obscenely powerful that it is going to be such a powerful. It's going to actually impact the format, right? It's not just going to be like this is a slightly better artifact hate card. Like to me, this is like the best artifact hate card. It's better than Ancient
down draw, or the big downside of all the forces back in the history of the Force of Will, I guess, is that it was card disadvantage. This is card equity.
Sure, I guess Stony Silence I think is still better, but I do think this card is better than most of the other artifact / enchantment hate.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you that it's definitely very powerful. I mean, this and the black one are both, as you said, like you gain advantage off of both of those cards.
Mm-hmm. Do you main deck either of them though?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can main deck the green one. You can main deck the black one.
Yeah, not the green one.
Because like having to kill a creature that your opponent casts in a game of Magic in Modern is still a main deckable effect. Having to kill an enchantment or artifact is not.
Yeah. I'll say this price wise, it's $350 right now. Regardless of what happens in Modern, this card's probably going to be like $2. And then I want them all because this card is basically in every green commander deck ever made, in my opinion. You don't think so?
No, I don't want this in every green commander deck.
You wouldn't kill Soul Rings, and you don't want to kill Soul Rings and Mana Crypts on turn 1? Because like to me that's a real thing in the play group. I would gladly give up a card to blow up 2 Mana Rocks in the first 2 turns of the game.
Maybe.
Is there not a green vintage deck that wants to play this? Isn't that like a thing in vintage to blow up like a bunch of sweet artifacts on turn 1 before you've even done anything?
I don't think I've ever played green in vintage.
Yeah, I think it was Brian.
I think Brian DeMars wrote an article on Channel Fireball that came out this week about vintage and talked about Force of Vigor and actually said, yeah, I think green got a lot of tools. That's weird. Green and vintage, huh? So
buy Mox Emeralds, guys.
The only green card I've ever played in vintage was Gaia's Cradle, and that taps for colorless.
Well, didn't you play Oath of Druids?
Yeah,
I did play Oath. That's right. Yeah.
All right, let's move on here. Next card up. This one's cool. I doubt there's a deck here in Modern, but we'll see. Astral Drift. It's the cycling.
I want to know what plane this card is on because I want my space plane.
Isn't it on Kaladesh? Like you because they have portals and you have cars that drift.
Boo!
If you ain't out of control, you ain't in control. I know Vin Diesel didn't say that, but whatever. Fast and Furious movies suck.
That was Jason's WWE movie trivia bit.
I think this is a card that is a new deck will have to exist for it to be good in Modern, but that this is a great tool for that deck, and there are other Cycling Matter cards that now can kind of combine with it, and this card is sweet and the fact that it can cycle to do the effect itself is really cool. The fact that it's the promo from a finance perspective, the fact that isn't it the promo for the pre-release? So
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, that's how it got spoiled.
Yeah, that's how it got previewed. So
it's $1. It's $1 right now, and it's just it'll be cheap, and then again,
It'll be cheap forever.
Yeah.
I will say I really like the Astral Slide deck in Extended. Right when Extended,
back in the day, yeah.
Right before it switched to double standard, and then everyone hated it. When there was like extended, the Astral Slide deck with like Astral Slide and Kitchen Finks and stuff like that was a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, there's decks that are close to this already, right? There's there's always been a fringe mono white blink stuff deck that plays Flicker Wisp, and you play Aether Vial to gain value off of doing that at instant speed, and so this just makes that deck better baseline, and then you add the layer of all the cycle lands, and then you can put this in a deck with Loam and Knight of the Reliquary, and that's a whole thing you could try doing. There's a lot of directions to go with the cycle lands being added, and this is a big benefit to doing that.
I'll say this too, just on the subject of cycling. Keep an eye on Living End. I believe there was at least one blue cycling creature in this set that caught my eye, and we've seen so many people experimenting with Living End, with Electro Dominance and so on. But there was also mono blue Living End with this stuff, so that used Striped Riverwinder to cycle. So just keep an eye on that archetype in Modern with the new round of cycling creatures. All right, next up, this is a card I think's overrated. See what you guys think. Giver of Runes. One drop.
No, Cabal Therapist was above Giver of Runes, but
I'm sorry.
I also think that's overrated. If it's this far down on the list and it was one of the first cards previewed, I think that says people have liked cards that have come along after more, and it's only $250. So the fact that it's been around for this long, I think.
You're talking about Therapist?
Yeah, Cabal Therapist. Yeah. I think people are pretty bearish on this, and I think that's probably correct.
What do you think, Alex, Ben? Is this good?
I think it's better than people are giving it credit for, and I think it's fine. I think it's the fact that it can sack itself is good.
Yeah.
The fact that it's been... I kind of have the opposite reaction. The fact that it was previewed first has given everyone the time that they've only had 2 weeks to be able to talk shit about the new cards that are weird and different, so they're not obviously powerful and therefore they're not good. This card has had 3 months of that without a single person playing it in anything.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think this is a great card to pick up if it goes down a little bit, or even at 250, because 250 is not that high, to hold on to for a while, because at any moment this could just be turn one in a tech a Aristocrats deck or something that just wants the ability to do the Therapist side, and then the fact that it does become repeatable can just lock people out. I think it's good. I think it's
you're right about Aristocrats. I think that's the kind of deck where it's you can get it just kind of would. You're already playing little dirtly creatures, right? So it just kind of fits while also protecting your stuff.
It definitely feels to me this is a classic card of it's really fun, the flavor's really cool, it throws back to another card. I would love to be able to play it. Is it actually going to make an impact? Probably not.
I agree.
Kind of the name of the game of a third of the sweet cards in this set, a bunch of which we're probably not going to get to talk to, but there's some really good 3-mana mythics that have that same flavor to them where I'm
right.
I want to play this, I just don't quite know.
All right, let's move on from this one. Giver of Runes. That's how I feel about this card as well. What do you guys think?
I'm
higher on this card. Yeah,
you're higher on it.
This is just in the Eldrazi decks. There's a bunch of decks that you want this protection effect, and we realized it on the podcast today. I think Ari Lax wrote a blog post about why Spellskite is bad in Modern, and it was really more about how Fatal Push has modified the format entirely, and how just removal spells have changed what has been done. And one key point he has is that creature spells that cost 1 and then they have to remove are good in Modern, just from the perspective that you're not down on mana and your momentum is still moving forward, and they have to be reactive while you're putting them under pressure. And so this does that, and it does dodge some removal. I mean, Deathrite Shaman's a great example. Being a 1/2 is relevant, especially in a world where people are playing Gutshot and maybe even the flashback sacrifice a land out of Lava Dart out of Phoenix. So the fact that it does that, and the fact that it can protect threats in combo decks that also got a lot of pieces in this set, and there are now like extra tutors for this card. I think that it is good. It's obviously not Mother of Ruins good, but like Mothers of Ruins is a card that would dominate Modern.
Yeah,
I think this is just going to be a good role player.
It's not Mom, yeah. Yeah.
I just think if you look at the cards that are the best in Modern, look at the cards that are the best in Modern over the last 6 months to a year, they almost all cost 1. You know, if you put this down on turn 1 and I have a path in my hand, do I want to path your 1/2? Same reasons that I don't really want to path your Noble Hierarch, and same reasons that I don't want to accelerate you on turn 1. So now 2 of the other 3 premier removal spells have to be the thing you're spending. And if you spend your bolt on this thing on turn 1, then probably the thing that you're trying to protect it with is now going to be, you know, like there's just a lot of play with this card that I'm just like, how is this not going to be good? Like it's good in so many decks. Like any deck you put this in, it's probably going to be a pain in the ass for your opponent to deal.
My first thought looking at it was just like, it does all of those things, but there's so many decks that just don't care about your creatures.
Sure, but I think part of that is like the creature decks that were trying to protect them didn't have good tools, like Spellskate, like the Coco decks, and they just got a bunch of new cards.
Yeah, which is they needed it. Yeah,
which they needed, and so this is just a great way to protect those combo pieces that can be found with Captain Ranger of Eos or just regular Ranger of Eos, or can be brought back with a new. Not Flicker Wisp, the guy who when he dies brings a 1/1 back or 1 drop back. So like
I know what you're best for Lark.
Yeah. So there's a lot of play with this card, and the point of this card is to protect your creatures from removal spells. And so if they're spending a removal spell to get rid of this creature,
that's true.
Then it's doing its job. And then sometimes you're even farther ahead because they have to path it on turn 1, otherwise they like don't win, and then you basically got rampant growth for 1 mana. So I think it's versatile enough. What's it selling at right now?
$450. Yeah.
Okay.
That seems about right, honestly. Yeah. All right, so I think we've got time to talk one more card here, the big one, Force of Negation. Instant speed, 3 mana. If it's not your turn, you exile a blue card. Counter target non-creature spell, exile it.
Exile the card you.
Yeah, the exile the card you've countered. Pretty simple spell, but $21 pre-sale. This is the big one. What's it gonna do?
People keep relegating it, I feel like, to the sideboard, and I think this is a more main deckable card than they're giving credit towards. There are so many non-creature spells in this format. Like, the only decks are the ones that are playing, like, humans, I guess. Like, but even those decks, like, fine, this is a dead card, but you're going to have a lot of dead cards in that matchup.
Yeah, it's like humans or spirits or whatever.
But, like, getting rid of any planeswalker, like Phoenix stopping anything they're doing. Just like I would discard this against the Thoughtseize any day of the week if I'm playing a combo deck or any deck that I want to protect against something, or control deck.
Pretty good against Faithless Looting on turn 1.
Yeah, like there's so many non-creature spells. Like if you look at the most played cards in Modern, the top 10 is like 8 creature spells in Noble Hierarch. And I don't know if there's a matchup I wouldn't want this, and then add the fact that you can use it, like, there's, like, weird decks, like, Ad Nauseam that are then just going to play it as a 4 of main deck because they can win on their opponent's turn.
Yeah, that deck might be... It's probably not, but it might be good. It's, like, never bad, but it's never, like, it's sort of artificially gated by the fact it has to, like, win on its Lotus Bloom turn. So, it'd be interesting to see if
that's not an artificial gate. That's just a gate.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's... But the thing is, it's like, it's never going to improve that, really. You know, it's not like it can get a new ritual or something. It just always has to wait.
So it's interesting.
I mean, we've all been in the situation, guys, where you sleeve up your game, or you shuffle up game 2, and you're trying to draw your opening hand, and you look at it, and it's an okay hand, but it has the Chalice that you want to get down on turn 1, or it has the Blood Moon, or it has the Answer. And inevitably, every single one of those cards is a non-creature spell. And they're almost all sorcery speed spells. And this is the card that in a blue deck you hope you have so you don't get screwed out of the game by your opponent's sideboard hate that they have going first. And that's going to be a thing forever as long as the format exists, unless they ban all those cards, because that's what games 2 and 3 in Modern are. So this card will always be expensive. This card's a totally reasonable rate to play at 3 mana. It's completely fine. If it's in my main deck, I don't really care. But like the point is, that thing I just talked about is the single biggest issue with competitive Modern. Like, it's the thing that sucks to lose a game to a Blood Moon that you can't interact with, or to lose to a Chalice that they turbo out on you. And like, where you get turn 3 Karned off of a Tron, like having some way to interact with them when you're still advancing your game state is a really good thing for Modern. I think every player is going to want to have access to it, so I just don't see how this isn't good.
I agree.
And like having this with New Teferi or original Jace the Mind Sculptor, like now I can just play my 4-mana Planeswalker that's going to answer any creature they would ever going to play by bouncing it, and then I have this to stop any non-creature that they're ever going to cast against me.
That honestly might be more of an issue or whatever with this card than any of the like bear effects or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But
Jace is good.
Because Jace is still Jace, and maybe this probably won't be, but maybe this will be the thing that makes us remember it. No, but probably not. But it is cool. I agree with you guys. I think this card's a lot better. People wanted Force of Will, and they didn't get Force of Will, so the reaction was always going to be negative. It's hard to say. I'm really interested to see what the price does in the first couple weeks of the set being out. That'll really inform what I think it's going to do moving forward. But I tend to agree with you guys. Like, if I'm playing my Merfolk deck, probably sideboards some number of these. Like, Merfolk plays Deprive a lot, so it's like similar, but the ability to tap out for a creature and not lose to whatever is a big deal. So I think this goes in a lot of decks. And even if it's just a sideboard card, I think it's an important enough card that it will fundamentally alter some of the ways that people either build their decks or just the relative strength of those decks, you know? Because, like you said, the issue with Modern is there's so many different things, and this is the first catch-all answer that seems playable on its face.
Right.
All right, so I know you guys got to get out of here. We hit most of the big stuff here. Is there anything
we covered nothing?
We got through a lot of the big ones. What other cards?
Prismatic Vista, $17 right now.
Nope. Don't
It's
buy
so
it.
good. It's really good though. I
Don't
really
buy
like
it.
it for EDH.
Don't
Yeah,
buy
I
it.
wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy it now, but I would be very happy to open it. And like, if you need it to play that card, buy
If you
it.
buy
If you're
it,
gonna play
sell
with
it to somebody
buy
who
it.
thinks it's going to hit $40 because there are people out there like
There are
that.
people that think that. Yeah.
I think the Horizon lands, the cycle, all of which seem to be $15 to $20. I honestly think that price is probably about right.
Yeah, it's close. It's
It
not
all
like-
depends
The
on
thing
what
about
the
this set is
printing
like
of the
the
set
mythics
is.
aren't gonna really take. Because look at what's mythic: Sarah, Urza, Yawgmoth, Seasoned Pyromancer. All cards we didn't get to because they're not selling that well. Maybe because
Right.
they're expensive, but maybe because they're just not that
Not that-
exciting.
I mean, it's
Hex
very
Drinker,
much because they're expensive. Urza was pre-selling for like $70 or something absurd for it.
Ranger Captain, Echo,
Yeah, that
Unbound
card's
Flourishing.
busted.
Like all the mythics. I don't know.
Some of those
if,
are pretty broken.
Yeah, and some of them I don't know if they're going to be able to
They're all long-term
carry the
commander
weight. So I
garbage
think
for
a
the most
lot of
part.
the. I'm sorry, we're trying to yada something that takes 30 minutes because we spent 50 on talking about 10 cards. I don't know. There's a lot we didn't get to. Yeah, we didn't talk about any of the.
we'll
mythics,
follow
but
up on
There's
it. It doesn't matter.
250
We'll
cards
follow-
in the set. We can't.
We'll follow up on it next week. We'll see how things go at the pre-release. We'll hit the big ones. I mean,
That's a
there's
good point.
lot-
That
there's
yeah,
plenty
the
of time
prices
left
are
to
going to
talk
be
about
in
this.
flux
Yeah.
for like the next little, and I think everything's going to go down basically.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
where
the
when the
thing
real
about
buying opportunity will be after next week.
Yeah, the lands are the ones I don't know about because this price doesn't seem that wrong to me, but we don't really have any concept of what the print run is going to look like. Like, we know what it is. It's not Modern Masters, but it's not exactly maybe a standard set either. Like, how much of this is there going to be? And it's really hard because unlike, say, Conspiracy, where it was just some commander staples or whatever, this has so many cards that impact a lot of formats, mainly, obviously, Modern being the big wrench to throw into it. I really don't know what's going to happen with a lot of the prices in this set, so it'll be interesting to follow up on it next week and see where things have gone. All right, Alex, Ben, anything else you guys want to touch on from the set before we get out of here this week?
Yeah, Ben, go.
I think you guys kind of touched on it a little bit. I think, the long term, the card that I can see, you said $15 to $20 on the Horizon Canopy cycle, and where I have to sort of look at that and be like, that's kind of right, but it's also kind of wrong, is that Horizon Canopy's been like $60 for like years now. And I recognize that card, got reprinted and it dropped down, but then it just went back up. And that's not even necessarily the color combo that you would want to have it in the most.
Yeah, I agree.
It's nice, but like,
I think the fact it was the only one.
Yes,
was
the fact that it was the supply gatekeeping the price is what made it very expensive, not the power level of the card.
I mean, I want these lands.
There's no
for every
decks that
format.
couldn't play it.
But yeah,
all the blue decks that don't play white or green aren't going to play Horizon Canopy unless they like.
Right, but every deck that was either white or green, a lot of them did play it, and now those, so now it's just like more. So it's like they're, just pretty much by virtue of just how many of these get played in the format overall, they can't be $60 coming from this set. So it's really hard to say.
My one thing I do want to say on these is that imagine like any standard format when lands were like a highly sought after thing, right? Like the price of a land, like a rare land when it's sought after, is like 16, 17, 18 bucks is standard historically. That's like usually where they're settled. Sometimes 20, but like usually the rare lands are about there. This set's going to get played for a month or two, and then it will stop getting opened or played. And unless they want to tank the prices and find a way to use these cards again, the 6 lands, the 5 Horizon Canopies, and the 1 Prismatic Vista will all be heavily played Modern cards forever. Yeah. So
you're right.
You can get them all for like $17 now. Let's say they even drop down to like 14 when they're opened a lot.
Waterlog's at 14 right now, so yeah, I agree.
Every one of those cards is $38 or more in 2 years.
All right, there you go.
They are probably the 4th best land in the cycle in the format, maybe 5th, possibly 3rd, like depending on how you value man lands or
very good.
Yeah, like I think they're better than fast lands, right? Like that, I think they're above that, and then like man lands, and then how you want to consider the future cycle of lands is, I guess, the other contender, and they're in that category. So other than shock lands who have been reprinted into the ground 4 times and are still over $10, like lands that are in that category go anywhere from $10 to $15 to $70. So like, and they all had standard print runs. Like these don't have that. So
right. I think this is all going to come down to what the print run looks like, because actually, one of the things as we talk about this, I think back to now is Battle Bond, where my pick for the set review in Battle Bond of the stuff that was going to retain value the most was the lands, and they did, and they've even gone up since then. So you know what? Maybe that tells us, we talked about not really knowing a lot about the print run, but if that's the closest model we have is Battle Bond last year, then, maybe you're right. Maybe there's just not going to be as many of these as people are expecting. And if the price doesn't actually go down in, say, the first month of the first 2 weeks of the set being out, then it's probably just not going to go down, which means it's going to go up. So, but until that happens, it's hard to know because we just don't know how much of this is going to be out there.
Well, and like the red ones are now one of the largest choke points to play Burn in Modern, which is generally one of the more friendly to new player decks. So that like that adds, like one of the reasons the green white land was so expensive was because Boggles was a value deck that only had one expensive card in it, being that. And so like
I don't know about Burn though. Burn has not been a budget deck for a really long time.
That's valid. But part of that is the fetch lands, right? Like
that's all it is.
This doesn't make it better.
Right.
And, there's also like the whole, eventually a set has cards in it that are worth it to just start opening boxes. And as long as it's a non-limited print run, we could be in that situation. But this box is also retailing at twice the price of a pack. So
right. And the thing is, we could see that, right? Because I believe the way it works is with standard sets, they're just always coming off the presses, so to speak, right? You just always get them. But with these supplemental sets, print to demand means print a run. Then if there's more demand, print another run.
Right, and that has a 2 month lead time at least.
Well, or something, right? Like they are, and they obviously printed a lot. It's not necessarily limited, but it's like if the set blows up, we will see a shortage, like we saw with Unstable, or like we saw with Battle Bomb over the second run of that. And the thing is, I think that does impact the prices and keeps them higher. So it's hard to say. So we'll see how this one plays out, and this will be the big stress test because this set has more cross-format appeal than all of those other ones mentioned.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, guys, I know we didn't get to everything. I'll throw out that the 3-drop human that tutors is broken. But we'll follow up on the rest of these next week, and that'll actually be good because we talked a lot about wanting to see how the prices shake out. So it'll be good to check back in on this set next week, hit on the cards we didn't hit on, and see what's happened. So
we did a bad job, and that's a good thing, actually.
Jason's just mad because he didn't get to talk.
this can just be a little bit of a preview for the 4-episode run that me and Matt are going to have to do reviewing this set. So we recorded the first one today. That'll be out this week. We did all of the white cards and some of the blue ones, and we'll go over most of the cards thoroughly.
You sound so
by the
excited.
end of this month.
You sound like you also love doing set reviews.
The last 2 sets both happen to be some of the most significant modern sets ever printed. So we're now, like, since War of the Spark has come out, we've released one episode that wasn't. We released one episode that wasn't a set review, and then our preview episode. That's what we've released.
Yeah. Nice.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you again for coming on. Reminder, anyone who wants to find the Masters of Modern podcast, you can do so at collected.company, and you should definitely check it out. All right, guys. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Anything else you want to say?
No, that's all. Thanks. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Go to the YouTube channel.
Where do we find? Yeah. Where do we find you on social media?
I'm at Kess Wiley.
I'm at Ben Batemen Media.
And we are both at the MMcast on everything. And then YouTube is the MMcast network, I think. So, and that's the best place to watch. We'll have card files and everything.
All right. Well, there you go, everybody. Again, guys, thanks for coming on. This is Brainstorm Brewery. For Jason and DJ, I'm Corbin. Everybody, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week, and we'll see how Modern Horizons starts to shake out. We'll see you then.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.